Hey everyone, we're back again for another off-season recap video and moving on to the Minnesota Wild today, who have had a very active offseason, a lot of lineup changes for the Wild this offseason, a lot to talk about in this one, so this is going to be a fun one to go through for sure. Just ask you subscribe and hit that like button if you haven't yet. Both of those things help out so much and are greatly appreciated, but let's take a look here at Minnesota, who's really had an interesting offseason. Not quite sure what direction they're going in. At times, it seems like some of their moves they're trying to rebuild. At other of their moves look like they're still trying to contend, and they're just kind of caught in the middle right now. And we're going to talk a lot about that as this video goes on. But let's take a look at all of their moves. A lot of significant changes in the Wild lineup. So let's see. Marcus Johansen for Eric Staal trade. That was one of the first moves they made, moving Eric Staal out to the Buffalo Sabres and brought back Marcus Johansen to Minnesota, which kind of a weird deal in my opinion. They got the worst player there, and the cap hit didn't really change a whole lot. So not really sure what that move was all about. Nick Benino comes in from the Nashville Predators. Luke Kunin goes out. Now, they did get an extra pick in that deal, so that could be why they did that. But just another kind of head-scratching move. The much younger Kunin goes out, and Nick Benino, who's in his early 30s now, comes in. Now, Benino did have a really solid year last year, but still, they're not particularly getting any younger with moves like that. Cam Talbot signed in free agency to replace Devin Dubnyk, who was traded to the San Jose Sharks. Ryan Donato was also traded to the San Jose Sharks. Nick Bjugstad comes in from the Pittsburgh Penguins. He has had a horrendous last couple of seasons, both with injuries and just his production on the ice. So huge question mark there with Nick Bjugstad. Alex Galchenyuk and Mikko Koivu both leave in free agency. Koivu, longtime captain of the team and career player for Minnesota, goes to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Galchenyuk, he goes to the Ottawa Senators. That experiment did not work out. But some good news is they have some young talent coming in. Marco Rossi, they drafted 9th overall. And Rossi, I think, has a chance to be one of the bigger steals of this year's draft. They desperately needed help down the middle. They desperately needed a high-end center, and they drafted that with Marco Rossi, who I think is a top 5 talent who slipped all the way to 9th in the draft. So great pickup there. And Kirill Kaprizov has put together back-to-back 30-goal seasons in the KHL. This is a team that is starved for offense. They desperately need him to come in and be able to score at the NHL level, and that could be a huge boost to them if he's able to do that. So they did inject some young talent into this lineup here with Marco Rossi and Kirill Kaprizov. Other than that, it's been a lot of veteran swapping here. And that's one of the more confusing things, I think, about this offseason for Minnesota. There's been a lot of veteran swapping. And that's why I'm kind of in the middle on this team. I don't know what direction they're trying to go in. Like, if it's almost like they're trying to rebuild and contend at the same time, and they just don't want to go through the pains of a full rebuild, but they're caught in the middle. And I feel like Minnesota's been one of these teams that's been caught in the middle for a while now. They're not good enough to be true contenders, but they're not bad enough to be getting, top 5 draft picks and really going through a full rebuild. And It's really interesting, the approach that Bill Guerin has taken, and I'm really not sure what Minnesota's full plan is here, because they're getting rid of some older guys like Dubnyk and Staal, and guys like that they've moved on from in the lineup, Koivu, but then they've replaced them with older veteran guys. It's not like they've gone out and brought in this whole youth movement thing. They've brought in Marcus Johansen and Cam Talbot to replace Dubnyk in goal. And these veteran guys, Nick Benino, who have been around the league, they're not really getting younger. It doesn't seem like they're really in rebuild mode, but when you look at this team on paper, they're not really good enough to be a contender either. And they still just seem to be caught in the middle, in my opinion. And I'm a little unsure of what direction they're really trying to go in right now, because it just seems like they're stuck in the middle, being a mediocre, average hockey team who maybe could squeeze out a bottom playoff spot, might miss the playoffs, and you really don't know, but they're not good enough to actually be a true contender. And this team's major issue is offense. It has been. They can't score. I mean, this is a team with a very good defense. You look at their defense core; it's one of the better defense cores in the league, really, 1 through 7. They've got a great top four with Suter, Spurgeon, Dumba, and Brodin. Now, maybe Dumba gets traded. There's a lot of rumors going around there, but they've got a really good top four. Carson Soucy's looked really good coming up as a potential future top four guy. I think if they do trade Dumba, then Soucy's a guy that could move up into a top four type role. But he's on the bottom pair now. Greg Patterson's a solid veteran bottom pair guy. Brad Hunt's a solid number 7. Like they've got a decent defense. Dubnyk had a really bad year last year in goal, and that, I think, contributed to why they traded him. Now they bring in Cam Talbot, who's might be okay, might not. He had some rough years in Edmonton, had a pretty solid year last year with Calgary, but you never really know what you're going to get consistently from Cam Talbot. So him and Stalock are going to be the goaltending tandem, which I think is pretty average. It's certainly not a top 10 goalie tandem in the league. It's probably in the mid-teens, somewhere around there. If you were ranking goalie tandems, it's average goaltending, and they don't score a lot. Kevin Fiala had a big year last year, but other than that, they really don't have much there offensively, and they didn't really do a whole lot. Now, if Kaprizov can come in and be a 25 goal scorer, then obviously that helps a lot. If Marco Rossi can come in and be a top 6 center right away in his rookie season this year, that's obviously going to help the offense a lot. And maybe they're kind of relying on some of those young guys to make that jump and be able to contribute right away. But I still look at this Minnesota roster, and I see a team that's stuck in the middle. And I know I've said that a lot in this video because that just seems to be where they're at and where Minnesota's been at for a long time now. Even when they were having 100-point seasons, if you go back 3-4 years, and Minnesota was like a really good team and had potential to win the Central Division, they still were getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs. And they're just a team that seems to be stuck in the middle. And they're never bad enough to fully go into rebuild mode, but they're never good enough to be true contenders either. And I still see them at that point after this offseason. They've kind of replaced veterans with veterans. They've brought in a couple of young guys, but it's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do this year. I think they're a pretty mediocre team. I think depending on what division they're in, with the realignment, they might be able to squeeze out like a 7-8 type playoff spot. They could potentially make it. But on the other hand, I think that, obviously there's a chance that they don't make the playoffs either. If the playoffs were not expanded to 24 teams last season, they were not going to be a playoff team. I think Minnesota and Nashville were going to finish ahead of, or not Minnesota, excuse me, this is Minnesota. Winnipeg and Nashville were going to finish ahead of them last season. And had a better shot of making the postseason, in my opinion, last year. So if it had still been 16 teams, I don't think Minnesota would have been a playoff team last year. And going into this year, I'm leaning towards them not making the playoffs. I think they might be able to squeeze it out a bottom spot, depending on what division they're put in. But again, they're not true contenders or anything like that. So I'm interested to see what Bill Guerin's long-term game plan is here, because right now I really don't know what direction they're trying to go in. It seems like they're still trying to be relevant while also retooling a little bit, and I really think you got to go one or the other. You can't be caught in the middle. You've got to fully commit to doing a 2 to 3 year complete retool and getting a lot younger and infusing your lineup in talent, or you've got to fully commit to spending money and trying to be a playoff level team. And right now I feel like they're right on the fringe of both of those things and not sure which way it's going to go. So Guerin hasn't been there all that long, so I really don't think we've gotten to see his full plan in motion yet, but I'm really interested to see what his long-term plan is there with Minnesota, because I really think it could go either way. But that is what I've got for the Minnesota Wild. Very active offseason this year. and interesting to see what kind of team they are coming up here in 2021. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon, merchandise store, and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.